This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN.
I mean, we're talking about a $32 billion valuation earlier this year. They're now trying to cover a shortfall of $8 billion.
Okay, so the FTX collapse and news about its founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, have been all over my social media feeds. And while there are lots of financial implications to the story, what's most interesting to us is how the scandal is explicitly connected to a school of philosophical ethics called Effective Altruism, or EA.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA is a brand of consequentialism that argues that it's not enough to just do good stuff based on intuition or feeling or a lot of other traditional philosophical ways of determining what's good. For EA, we need to use data and analysis to figure out how to do the most good. This involves donating both money and time in ways that are mathematically proven to have the biggest effect. FTX founder, the 30-year-old wunderkind Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, is or was an avid believer, even working as director of development at the Center for Effective Altruism. He's also sat down for interviews with philosophers like Peter Singer and has been positively referenced by leading thinkers in the EA movement. So, why would one of the world's largest crypto exchanges be run by a philosophy bro? Is that part of why it failed so catastrophically? And how could understanding SBF's philosophical sensibilities help us make sense of the fallout? Let's find out in this Wisecrack Edition. Did bad philosophy take down FTX? Okay, but before we really get into it, I want to tell you about this video sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Surfshark VPN keeps your data secure everywhere you go on the internet thanks to their secure protocols and uncrackable encryption. Now, something that I love about using Surfshark is it keeps my location private, which is a huge advantage when you're doing stuff like buying plane tickets. Because if a website doesn't know where I am, they can't gouge the price based on what they think I can afford. All I gotta do is connect my secure Surfshark VPN to other VPNs around the world until I track down the best price. And speaking of the world, these connections also make it easier to watch all the content that hasn't been released in your country yet. Some of you might know I used to live in the UK and I got addicted to some TV shows there, and Surfshark helps me watch them. Thanks, Surfshark. Now, all your favorite devices are included with a single subscription, so that includes your laptop, Android, Amazon Fire Stick, PlayStation, and more, and you can still use apps like Chrome and Firefox. So, get started today by clicking the link in the description and using the promo code Wisecrack. Now, when you do, you can get Surfshark VPN for 83% off, plus 3 extra months for free. Now, I said that right, 83% off and 3 extra months for free. So go to surfshark.deals/wisecrack or hit the link in the description, protect yourself online, and download Surfshark VPN today. And now, back to the show. Okay, before we get into the philosophy, we first need to ask, what is an SBF and what is an FTX? Also, what is a GOD? And is he real? Now, in 2017, after a successful stint on Wall Street, the MIT grad founded Alameda Research, a firm that trades cryptocurrency across international markets. 2 years later, he started FTX, in exchange for cryptocurrency derivatives. The gamer-turned-billionaire soon became a benevolent giant of the crypto world, bailing out struggling firms and exchanges, including lending $400 million to the BlockFi exchange. But most interesting to us is that along the way, SBF was very public about his commitment to effective altruism, referencing it as a motivating factor in building his crypto empire.
But a single person can potentially save thousands of their lives over the course of your career, and that's a lot of lives to save.
And he's still spotlighted prominently on a bunch of official EA websites, though now they've added a bunch of little boxes that are like, oh, by the way, this guy might be bad now. Now, we actually talked about EA in our last video, but just to refresh your memory, Effective Altruism is a school of ethics inspired by the work of Peter Singer and formed at Oxford University by philosophers Toby Ord and William MacAskill. It advocates using computational data to determine which ethical actions and careers are the most effective in doing good. It also advocates that adherents donate as much of their salaries as they can to effective causes. Now, its associated perspective, long-termism, which is prominently seen in the work of EA co-founder Toby Ord, pushes this logic further, arguing that we should make ethical decisions primarily on the basis of how they will affect future humans rather than currently existing ones, because in numerical terms, there's more of them than us. To which I ask, what if the future humans suck? You know, they're the type of people that you're like, oh, I got Chipotle for lunch. They're like, you didn't get real burritos, you got Chipotle? Oh my God. And it's like, I don't want to help them. I want to hurt them. As we noted, SBF's love for EA was mutual. In a recent glowing piece on EA philosopher William McCaskill, he recounts meeting SBF when he was an undergrad and getting him involved in the movement via earning to give. This is the idea that you should pick a career not based on its immediate impact, but on how much earning potential it gives you so that you can donate to effective causes. SBF concluded that by going into finance and later crypto, he would, quote, probably make enough money that the Humane League could hire many people and accomplish much more than it would if I went to work for them and started handing out leaflets. Tough look for the brave people handing out leaflets. He pledged to give away the majority of his estimated $26 billion and funneled over $160 million into effective altruism programs in 2022 alone. He also set up philanthropic infrastructure within FTX, promising that 1% of crypto exchange fees would be donated. So we have a tech wunderkind changing the world of digital finance with the backing of a bunch of Oxford professors and ethical theorists. What could go wrong? Well, it seems that basically everything could. So, what happened? Well, if you want a really detailed analysis, go check out David Wallace Wells' article over at the New York Times or Linda Kinsler's piece at The Economist, but we'll try our best to summarize. So, the root of the problem rests in the interdependence between Alameda and FTX. The New York Times notes that Alameda's need for funds to run its trading business was a big reason Mr. Bankman-Fried created FTX in 2019. That's because FTX had the ability to produce as much of its own cryptocurrency, FTT, as it wanted and invest that FTT into Alameda, which kept it looking healthy. Alameda also used FTT as collateral to take out investments. Now, the jig was basically up in November when CoinDesk noted that 40% of Alameda's assets were held in FTT, freaking out investors. SBF's rival, Changpeng Zhao, dumped all his FTT, sending the currency's price plummeting, and then he said he was planning to buy FTX. He reneged on the latter, citing too many holes in FTX's finances, including, according to Reuters, this staggering revelation: SBF had secretly used $10 billion of FTX's customers' money to prop up Alameda without notifying them. Imagine having $10 billion that you could just use in secret. I recently tried to use a small amount of money to secretly buy a guitar and keep it for my wife. And then last night I was like, oh, a package might come when I'm filming tomorrow. And she was like, what's the package for? And then, we had a whole thing. What followed looked like a thoroughly modern bank run, persisting until FTX was forced to suspend withdrawals. Now, the aftermath of this failure has only gotten messier and messier, largely because SBF hasn't just put his head down and shut the f*** up. In an interview with Vox writer Kelsey Piper that took place over Twitter DMs, SBF openly spoke about the hypocrisy behind his philosophical posturing. When asked about previous comments to Piper about his desire to bring his ethical commitments into the finance world, he said, quote, man, all the dumb shit I said, it's not true, really. He went on to say, everyone goes around pretending that perception reflects reality. It doesn't. Some of this decade's greatest heroes will never be known, and some of its most beloved people are basically shams. When Piper asks, so the ethics stuff, mostly a front, people will like you if you win and hate you if you lose, and that's how it all really works, SBF largely agreed, saying, yeah, that's not all of it, but it's a lot. The worst quadrant is sketchy plus lose. The best is win plus question mark. Clean and lose is bad, but not terrible. Imagine just breaking down your ethics into quadrants. Just you have different quadrants. Jesus Christ. Finally, Piper asks, you were really good at talking about ethics for someone who kind of saw it all as a game with winners and losers. He responded, I had to be. It's what reputations are made of to some extent. I feel bad for those who get f***ed by it. But this dumb game we woke Westerners play where we say all the right shibboleths and so everyone likes us. Jesus Christ, man, this guy. If I was even in a little bit of trouble at work, I would just shut my mouth. And people start asking questions, you just shut up. When in doubt, just shut up. Since that interview came out, an Economist piece on FTX revealed that in his PhD dissertation, FTX CEO Nick Beckstead took EA into a disturbing direction, writing that, quote, "It now seems more plausible to me that saving a life in a rich country is substantially more important than saving a life in a poor country, other things being equal." I would love to hear what the other things are. He says that's because people in rich countries are more likely to make more money, which they can use to do more good. So how do we reconcile the public image of a finance company that touts or arguably virtue signals its ethical commitments with the shady business at the heart of FTX's collapse? There are at least two ways we could read all of this. One is that even if SBF is a total prick, and he is, others associated with FTX really believed in the principles of EA and long-termism, and this ends justifies the means logic enabled them to do some shady stuff in the name of helping people down the road. Now, the other is that EA was all a front that used a compelling school of ethics to create a smokescreen in front of typically ruthless business practices. Okay, let's start with the first. Now, if you buy the assumptions of effective altruism, namely that what's most effective is most ethical, and thus ethical decisions should be made on the basis of the best long-term consequences for existing and yet to exist humanity, then pursuing a career in finance makes sense. No one would deny that you can make more money on Wall Street than you can in nursing. And if money is the most important tool in the long-term perpetuation of human life, then the ethical imperative is get money.
Get the money, dollar bill, yo.
But in EA, it's not just enough to earn a ton of money, you also have to know how to best spend that money. And that's where EA arguably gets a little sketch, at least according to computer scientist Redden Masrani's examination of the movement's model for determining what makes giving and careers most effective. Masrani says, quote, "They are taught to trust equations over their moral intuitions. It's sociopathic." According to Kinsler, he argued that philosophers of long-termism were using mathematical equations as a rhetorical ploy to leave readers stunned, confused, and bewildered. It's sort of like when I'm out to dinner with my friends who are good at math and we're splitting the bill and they just say, "Oh, Michael, you owe this much." They could be doubling it, but I don't know because the numbers leave me stunned, confused, and bewildered. For philosopher Amy Berg, McCaskill's vision seemed morally inert. It showed how far the movement had shifted from its original ethos of doing the most good towards championing highly speculative and costly research. That means prioritizing vague, future-oriented things like preventing AI from getting out of control over material needs in the present, like helping those affected by climate change. Berg added, "What I can do as a person has really changed too. Here's how people with a lot of money can get involved." And this seems to be what happened with SBF, among other things. Now, at our most skeptical, it seems that some of EA and long-termism's more high-profile and well-funded proponents are engaged more in a form of reputation laundering than they are in committed ethical practice. And reading SBF's comments to Vox, it seems like he's saying the quiet part out loud. Or, to quote Future, he's going mask off. Because he doesn't merely hedge his previous commitments. He straight up acknowledges that they're that all that really matters in the game he's playing is the bottom line, and that anything else is just a game of perception.
There's this fancy new business theory. It's called make more than you spend and you're king.
But the most disturbing thing here, I mean, besides all those people who lost billions of dollars from investing their money into FTX, is that until this scandal, EA and the world of finance were able to coexist without contradiction. And EA was promoted glowingly across the mainstream media as a way to change the world without having to be too critical of it.
It's good because it's not clear exactly what the hell it means. So, lots of wiggle room?
Yes.
According to Oxford professor Omnia Srinivasan, effective altruism has been a conservative movement, calling us back to where we already are. The world as it is, our institutions as they are. McCaskill does not address the deep sources of global misery, international trade and finance, debt, nationalism, imperialism, racial and gender-based subordination, war, environmental degradation, corruption, exploitation of labor, or the forces that ensure its reproduction. Effective altruism doesn't try to understand how power works, except to better align itself with it. In this sense, it leaves everything just as it is. This is no doubt comforting to those who enjoy the status quo and may in part account for the movement's success. And if a radical ethical philosophy doesn't require us to radically question dominant systems of the organization of power in our world, was it ever that radical to begin with? We don't think so, but hey, one thing we'll never criticize is SBF's sartorial choices. Gym shorts for all. But hey, what do you think? Is Effective Altruism at least partially to blame for FTX's downfall, or is SBF just a uniquely bad actor? Let us know what you think in the comments. Please like, subscribe, let us know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. Check out our Patreon if you haven't, and we'll catch you guys later.